evening and welcome to Information Please, your Peoria Public Library on the air, bringing you information about your library and your community. This evening my guest is Jillian Rubman from Peoria Public Library, who knows a great deal about our databases, and I want her to tell you all about them. Hi Jillian, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I know you guys are really busy at the library right now. School's starting,
Yes.
Getting ready for that onslaught. We finished summer reading, getting ready for that onslaught of kids and people who need to know things at homework at the last minute. So tell me, why does Peoria Public Library have electronic databases instead of buying, paper encyclopedias or all the things? Go ahead.
A paper encyclopedia comes out once a year, once every couple years. An electronic resource is updated often. It's the same, actually sometimes more expensive than a book because it's updated so often. It's a subscription service that we pay for. And a nice bonus is that it's open 24/7. You can look at it from your home, from your dorm room at 2:30 in the morning. If you've got a paper due at 9, it's pretty easy to kind of go and look it up.
It's a great aid for all those parents who have a child who at 9 o'clock on Sunday night says, I have a report due tomorrow.
Exactly. And it's all actual reference books. It's not just, a random web page that you can look up on the internet that's not verified. These are all verified and researched.
I think that's one thing people kind of get confused on. They think that a search engine, use one of the popular search engines on the internet, and you can get a million results, but how do you know what's correct and what's not? And worse than that, at this point when you're talking about grades in school, you're talking about what will my teacher accept?
Right, right. A lot of teachers will accept Wikipedia, and a lot of them won't because anybody can edit that, and while they try and have pretty high standards, anybody can kind of go and sabotage a website, and that'll get you an F on a paper instead of an A.
Yeah, or even tweak it. Yeah, just tweak it enough that it's not worthwhile.
Exactly.
So tell me, we have so many databases. We add them all the time. They're changing. How do people find them, the databases?
You can get them from the library's website. If you go to peoriapubliclibrary.org, there are a row of links at the top, and one of them says e-library, and it brings up a drop-down list, and you can select databases from that drop-down.
Yeah.
And it's got a nice alphabetical list of everything we offer.
Great. So what are some of the databases you want to tell us about today that you think are important for parents and students to know about?
One of them, probably my very favorite one for doing research papers, is Britannica Online. It's the Encyclopedia Britannica that everyone knows and loves. But they do have a feature called a workspace, and you can create a workspace. You just have to put in, your own personal name and password and a library card number.
Like create an account using
Yes.
your library card number.
Exactly. And then it will remember you, and you can create pages for projects. So say in history you have a project on the Civil War, you can create one titled Civil War, and then as you go and you look up, you can save pictures and articles and documents and reference lists to that workspace so that the next time you come on, it'll all be in one place for you. And you can have several of them. You can have one for history, one for English, one for science. So they won't get confused with each other, but it'll still be nice in one place when you come back to it.
Great. I know these days a lot of kids have to create PowerPoints rather even than written papers. So does Encyclopedia Britannica offer anything that's helpful for that?
It does. It has, like I said, a lot of images that you can use. After the Olympics ended, they've had a special spotlight, so you can go and just look at image galleries from Olympics going all the way back to the 30s even.
What about little movie clips? Do they have movie clips?
I believe they do, yes. And they also have a lot of quotations that you can do for, ending and beginning slides, things like that. So just nice things to jazz up.
Nice.
Your project.
Yeah, and is this something that, like small children as well as adult learners can use?
Yes, there is a Britannica for kids as well.
Yeah, and I think that you just toggle back and forth between the two, can't you? Yeah, so it makes it easy to use. And one of the things I like when I've looked at that is that they'll have, I don't remember what they call it, but like hot topics, things that are in the news, or if you're at a point where you have to go find a topic for a report, they offer a lot of things, topic of the day or different things.
Yeah, daily spotlights, daily biographies of a famous person who's born that day, today in history, and that's all from the front page.
Yeah, so even if you're not a student, you might enjoy going and looking at those things every day. Could be fun. Something for your Facebook page.
There you go.
Put up whoever the personality of the day is. So what are some of the other databases that you would strongly recommend people get familiar with?
Another one that I really enjoy is the Mango Language Learning. It's got classes in several different languages, English as a second language classes, but anything from Spanish, German, French, your typical school curriculum, to things like Greek and Italian, Dutch. I took a few Irish classes, Portuguese, tons and tons of languages, and it's really easy. You just need, again, your library card. And if you are at a computer where you might be bothering somebody else, a pair of headphones, because you're going to be talking back at the computer. It's going to give you words to pronounce, phrases to pronounce, and you say them back until you can get the pronunciation correct. And it'll give you, basic sentences after you've learned these words and put together kind of a conversation. It's
Does
really
that one let you
interesting.
set up an account too, so you can
Yes.
continue to work on it?
Yes, and it'll save your progress, and it'll show you which courses you've done. Because once you finish the Spanish course, you can go right on into the Italian or flip back and forth and compare and contrast. It's kind of interesting.
I think they have 2 versions on each too, where they have sort of a light version, like if you're going to France for a week and you want to say, where's the restroom, or where's the restaurant or the hotel, you can learn a few phrases, or you can take an in-depth class and work your way through to learn the language.
The phrase book versus the I want to speak this fluently.
And I know there's many courses out there that cost a great deal of money that people pay for and take, and you just don't have to do that when you have access to this.
Yeah. This definitely beats paying $450 for the computer program
that you might want to. So this is of help not only to students who might want to learn French, Spanish, whatever, but also to adults who may have to travel, have business connections in another country.
Anybody who works at CAT will have international visitors or sometimes get sent someplace new and interesting.
Got a built-in way to learn a language. That's great. So what else do we have?
We have the General Reference Center, which is one of our databases. It kind of pulls together a lot of newspapers, magazines, and reference books, not just an encyclopedia, and it brings them all to one space. So you can type in, and it does have this really nice functionality. It's the search assistant, so it'll try and guess what it is that you're typing and offer other things about what you're typing. So if you type in Peoria, Illinois, it'll bring up and say East Peoria, Illinois, Caterpillar, Key Industries, all these other things in Peoria, Peoria Heights, and then you click on it and it'll bring up a list of magazine articles, newspaper articles, things in reference books going all the way back to the early 90s and sometimes even before.
Oh, great. Is that different than the newspaper database?
Slightly different, and the General Reference Center has more media that it pulls from. So not just newspapers, but also encyclopedia articles that might not be from Britannica. So Britannica wouldn't bring up the newspaper articles, but the newspaper articles wouldn't bring up the encyclopedia.
I see. And so does that have like a workspace where you can save things too, or not?
That one does not.
So that one you would just have to save them in your computer or whatever you're going to do.
Right.
And there's so many ways to do that anyway. But many people bring their own devices, whether it's a laptop or an iPad, or I even see people working on their phones. Save things, and if not, then you can save it. Google Docs. I mean, there's always kinds of ways to do that.
There's lots of great programs out there that let you save documents. I have one specific one that I use. It's on my home computer, my phone, and even to a very small extent my work computer, so that if I mess something around for work, I can pull it up from home and just look at it without having to email it to myself, and it'll automatically save across. So some of the statistics that I keep, if I suddenly have an epiphany at 11:30, I don't have to write it down and wait till I get there the next morning. I can.
That's the problem with all this. None of us ever stop working. I don't think we did anyway. It's just easier to keep working 24 hours a day because it's right there, and it's so much easier no longer making notes or calling your own voicemail at 3 a.m.
Right.
To
Pull it
tell
up from my
yourself something.
phone. Don't forget to do.
Yes, it happens frequently. Okay, so we've talked about Britannica, we've talked about Mango Languages, and we've talked about the General Reference Center. Those are just 3 of a long list. What else do we have?
I have one more that I wanted to talk about. It is the Testing and Education Resource Center. It has a lot of high school tools. If you're studying for some AP tests, if you're studying to get a GED, if you're studying for some of the more advanced, not AP, but I think it's got International Baccalaureate study tips on there as well. So for people who are in high school or studying for some of the higher level tests, it also has a lot of college tools, ACT, SAT, work on your resume, college search, how to write your cover letters, get reference letters, things like that. So it's got practice tests that you can take to study for, search tips. The GED, for example, I know has an entire 580-page book available as a PDF for free, online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And that's something that we have a hard time keeping a paper copy of
Yes.
on the shelf,
Yep.
because those people tend to feel it's worth it to just take them and not bring them back rather than buy their own
Yeah.
copy.
And, you have a new edition that comes out every year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so you don't want the old edition because you'll be studying to the wrong thing.
You don't want to be studying for the 2009 SAT.
Yeah,
No.
which is a great thing, because those kids that are juniors in high school now that will be taking that can start now and start studying and be ready for when they take those, or whoever's taking them, because it used to be such a big deal taking them in the spring of the year, but now people are taking them kind of year round, because the schools
and then you
are
start
so
studying
diverse.
for it when you're a sophomore nowadays.
Yeah, getting ready for all that. Yeah, well, and speaking of that, with the testing and the resumes and the job search, we do have, and you may have been going to talk about it, but our brainfuse Job Now suite. So maybe we can talk about Job Now, and which also helps with those testing and employment things, and then back up to brainfuse.
Yep. Job Now and the Testing and Education Resource Center have a lot of commonality in that they do have job search ideas. The TEC does have more of an emphasis on testing for a job, so how to study for the civil service exam, things you need to know if you want to be a firefighter, attorney, a doctor, things like that. Job Now will have more kind of how to get the job once you know what you want to do. Not only tips for resumes, but tips for interviews, how to answer interview questions, how to dress, things like that.
And they also have the one-on-one help for your resumes.
Yes.
Just as that's the key component, I think, of that program, is the one-on-one help with whiteboard texting.
Right.
And it works for Job Now if you want somebody to proofread that resume.
Because that's what I always did. I would send my resume to a friend of mine and say, "Would you hire me if I gave you this?" And so then you have somebody who is not your friend and might give you a little bit more of an honest answer instead of saying, "Oh no, this looks great." They'll be a little bit more honest and
about
say,
what
you need to fix this and change this.
And I understand, I haven't heard of anyone who's done this, but I bet people have, where you can actually do a practice interview.
Yes, you can do that on Job Now.
Which is very helpful for somebody who's been at the same job for 20 years and has just been laid off, their company closed, or there was downsizing, and all of a sudden, boom, back to doing something they hadn't planned on doing in a long time.
Yeah, lots of resources for people who are entering the workforce for the first time, who are between jobs, who are going back to work after a long absence, or after, like you said, being laid off. Lots of resources for people who may be rusty.
Yeah. But the same setup of tools also works in brainfuse. So do you want to tell us about how brainfuse works?
brainfuse is very similar. It is a little bit more education-oriented than career-oriented.
Yeah. And we have brainfuse has the live tutors available from 3 in the afternoon till, is it 9 or 10 at night? I think it might be 10.
I think you might be right. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. But yeah, it's a really great after-school resource.
What I like about brainfuse is that they have grad students and tutors in every discipline, and they're all over the country, and there's no actual contact with your student. You don't have to worry about, you know, some strange person or whatever. All these people are, you know, they never use last names. They don't have any direct contact. They don't continue to work with the same person, but they are experts. If you need somebody for high school chemistry,
they'll find you someone.
When you're logging in, you say, you know, that you're 11th grade chemistry, and somebody will pop up that can help you. And then they never give you the answers.
Right.
They are truly tutors where they help you think it through, and they give you all kinds of resources like other web pages, and they can give you practice problems, and you can save the session too. Because who can remember after you just worked through that chemistry problem? I always bring up chemistry because I would have loved this with chemistry. go through the problem, and then you turn around and go, what did I do? How did I do that?
Or then you go to the next problem, and it's kind of the same steps to work through, but it's completely different. So you go, okay, now what did I just do?
Yeah.
And it saves you having to write down a lot of things, and it saves you having to, a little bit of the almost embarrassment of having to go back and say, can you tell me that again? Because I just forgot it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we find that our heavy users often are people who are taking trigonometry or chemistry. But it is available from kindergarten on up, and you never know when your kids are going to hit a subject that they're teaching that so differently than they used to, or there's new knowledge or new ways of doing it, and it can be almost anything. Plus, they'll proofread papers and suggest you might want to look at your closing sentence. Is it really a sentence? But they won't do it for you.
Right, and some people might kind of not enjoy the fact that it's not a place where you can just go and they'll give you the answers, but I think you learn a lot more if they don't give you the answers, if they show you how to get the answers, and you can remember it and be able to turn around and teach somebody else maybe in a lower grade, because I know that was always really nice for making sure I understand it if I can teach it to somebody else.
Yeah, if you can tell someone else, then you can do it. And since the live tutors are only there in the afternoon and evening, but there are still plenty of resources on that site. There's you can make flashcards. Have you tried doing that yet?
Not yet, I haven't.
We did it for something, I don't remember what, but you can make flashcards, and so often...
From addition, multiplication up to, chemical formulas and which
whatever.
ones, maybe glucose and glycose and what's the difference, and you put it on a flashcard.
And teach yourself with those great things. You don't have to go buy the box set anymore.
Right.
Do they even sell those?
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, they've also got a wonderful meeting space, which, as a parent, you're at work and your child, who is old enough to be pretty independent but can't drive yet, is assigned a study partner who lives 20 minutes away.
Right.
What do you do? So
you go to the library, of course.
Well, if your parent can't get you there, that's a problem. But I say this as a parent with children in a rural school district that was always assigned a study partner that lived more like 40 minutes away, and whose house I couldn't even find. But they do have a study space, so if you're in a study group, your study group can actually set a time and meet on there.
Right,
and
which is a little bit more free of distractions than instant messaging and emailing and...
much more.
Yeah,
which
send somebody an email and
there used to be
this game.
Yeah, I think there used to be a lot of homework done on Facebook. There probably still is in those study groups meeting on Facebook. But this might be a more, a better space to do that in. So, but that's open all the time and not just in the afternoon and evening.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
if you need to discuss something at 3 a.m, the day
you
before,
can.
Exactly.
Well, you have those group speeches.
Oh my goodness! And the group papers. Who's writing what?
Yeah.
You were supposed to have this many sources.
Yeah, and it's just a great way if parents can get their kids to look at these tools and use them. It's a great way to handle some of those issues. And of course, Peoria. We just don't know, are our kids succeeding or not? It's hard to tell with the testing. There's so many arguments about that the testing throws things off and our kids really are doing better.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Are you teaching for the test or are you teaching for knowledge?
But these programs help no matter where your kid is at or where you are in your lifelong learning curve. These things can all help and very, very, very much. But we're just touching the top of the databases.
Absolutely. We've talked
about another
4
one.
or 5.
Yeah.
There are probably 30 that we have.
We haven't talked about one that I think is fun because I see uses for all ages, and that's Tumble Books.
Tumble Books.
Yeah, Tumble Books.
I haven't spent as much time with it as I probably should have, but it's so much fun. It really kind of brings the book to life and makes it a little bit more interesting, and it's not just words on a page.
We should explain it's animated storybooks, like some of the TV shows used to be.
Right.
That there's a voice reading, there's noises, the character is moving
around on the page.
But the great thing about this one is where the type is, you can do all kinds of different settings, and for early readers, it will highlight, it will pronounce individual words. Or you can turn off the sound and have the child read it themselves or read it to you. So you can use this for tiny little ones.
To make the pictures move and get them really excited about what's going on in the book.
Screen.
Or kids who are just learning to read, you can have them sound it out. Or if they're having trouble sounding it out, you can have the Tumble Book help you with pronunciation. What is that big word?
Yeah, so you can use it either as a learning tool or just for fun, just for the pleasure of reading. Plus, it also has games and puzzles. So I know a lot of parents will have the child work their way through the book, and once they're done, then they can play a game or do the puzzle that goes with the book.
It's a nice reward system.
And those are animated and on the computer, so they're just what every kid likes. But the other thing I think they're great for, we already talked about Mango Languages and brainfuse being able to help with foreign language, but Tumble Books is a great learning tool too, because they do have books in French and Spanish, and I don't remember what else, but if you're in high school and you're learning Spanish, what a great way to hear a book. And
it's definitely not embarrassing if you're a senior in high school in Spanish class to go and get Dora the Explorer and some of these
the ones really well.
The cat eats the rat, and in Spanish that that might be your reading level in a foreign language, but everything helps.
Yeah, everything does. You can and there are classics on there that you can get to, and I know we have Tumble Books Cloud coming, and I'm not quite sure I understand what it is, but people should watch for it. Do you know much more about Tumble Books Cloud?
Not a whole lot. I have my ideas of what it's going to be, but I'm not sure if.
Well, the other thing that's new,
right.
about a year old on Tumble Books, is they now have iPad books, which they didn't have for a long time. You couldn't use a Mac, any kind of the Mac platform, to look at Tumble Books, and now you can.
So now it's all Apple compatible.
You can use once they got the iPads and they realized all the kids were on Mom and Dad's iPad, that's where they went with that. So, but what are some other databases that people find helpful for schoolwork?
For schoolwork, this one's not necessarily a database, but it's the Alliance Digital Library that you can go. It's the e-library. You can go and check out books, and it has a lot of books that are in the public domain, so that the kind of things that are going to get assigned in your high-level literature classes, that the library might only have 1 or 2 copies, but the online you can have 4 or 5, and you can check them out.
Well, and many of those have unlimited checkout, and there's unlimited number, and so you can get them immediately if you have your e-reader, or you need to read it on your computer, your phone, whatever.
And some of them they even have in the audio format that you can get on the computer, free of charge. You can have it for as long as you need it. You don't have to wait in line for it if somebody else has it. So things like the Scarlet Letter that have been around forever but have been assigned in a lot of classrooms, you can still go in
and easily access them.
And
find them. We touched a little bit on newspaper databases. So many people want to read an article in a newspaper, go to get it, and you find out you can only get the first paragraph, and then you have to pay. So we have your workaround for that.
We have a couple different ones for that. We've got Newsbank that has newspapers going back, I think, to the mid-late 90s. And that's got newspapers from all over the country, all over the world, not just local, state, things like that.
I think that there's almost 1,500 newspapers in that database, and I think there's close to 90 Illinois papers in another one.
And then from small towns as well as, you can get the Chicago Tribune and the Sun-Times, but you can also get, as you said, the Journal-Star. I think you can get the Pantograph there, maybe even the Pekin Daily Times, I'm not sure.
People often want the Journal-Star. Unfortunately, it starts in 1991, so if you're looking for an obituary from 1920 or whatever, you're still going to have to come to Local History and Genealogy or email, and they'll probably send it to you. But the way to get news that's more recent or articles, and that's great too, whether you're researching a paper or doing research for business or whatever you're doing.
It goes back a good 20 years at least. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we have a social studies database, I believe, ABCCILO.
Yes.
What does all that stand for? Do you even know? I don't know.
I know, we just call it Cleo, so I'm sure it stands for something, but we just say it the way it looks. That has a lot of history. It's got, oh my goodness, American history with a breaking point. I think it's pre and post Civil War. It's got American history specific to certain groups. So American Indian history, African American history, Asian American history,
Latino history.
Latino history.
I saw that one
definitely.
on there when I was working on something the other day.
And it's got European history and then some ancient history, medieval. It's really interesting. So any possible subject you could want to look up, there's just pages and pages and pages of information on everything.
And that's another place just to go poke around. I mean, if you're the kind of person who likes to wander through the stacks and look at stuff, that's another great fun place to just go look at things.
Yep.
But it also can suggest topics. You've been assigned a topic on ancient Rome. It'll you can go in and find ideas. Yeah. And the great thing about a lot of these is they'll show you the annotation. That's always the tough thing when you're writing a paper, of quoting your source. And almost all of these programs give you exactly how you have to do that annotation.
I know Britannica, for certain, you can look at the citation down at the bottom of the page and choose whether you want it in MLA, APA, Turabian, most of the common citations that teachers will ask for.
And we're still just touching the tip of the iceberg here, because we have Ancestry, which you can get at home. You can pay for subscription at home, but it's very different from the library one.
That's one that you have to use at the library. Heritage Quest you can use from home, and that also has a lot of the census data. Yeah,
and you can look at books in there. You can search for your ancestor, or if you're doing a report on a famous person, you can go there and find sources.
Definitely.
And I mean, we have so many for building mailing lists and locating all kinds of things. It just wellness. And health.
Yep, there's a health and wellness one. There's a couple even financial ones, so you can look at kind of the financial history of companies.
When you're in that consumer reports.
Right.
Well, I'm so glad you could come today, and as I said, we tried to get them all out there, but I know that we didn't. So
there's several that we didn't even mention.
I would encourage everybody, whether you're a student or a lifelong learner, a business person, to take advantage of these databases. They're easy to find. You just need your library card and your PIN number. And you can ask at any desk. You can call for your PIN number. If you go to RSA CAT, our catalog, there is a link up there in the top that says, email me my PIN. And you will find all the sources you need. There is no reason why you should be lacking information, and you can get valid information, correct information from the library. That's what we're here for, to use your money to get you the best sources possible. We'll see you next week on Information Please.